At the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, I decided to hold a series of interviews in New Delhi. With my friend Aditya, I went to sit with my guests in their homes and talk while he filmed. Separate conversations with 7 inspiring women: Deepa Mehta, Supriya Dravid, Ambika Seth, Jyotika Jalani, Sonia Jahan, Ayushi Mehra, Karishma Jhalani. The culmination of which I want to share with you. Each had a fierce understanding of context, fearless and led by their heart, but always mindful of their abundant intelligence. These are their fascinating journeys. Listen up. Welcome to the warmth and safety of the lighthouse. Hello, Karishma.
Hi.
Thank you for having us in your home, your beautiful home in Panchsheel. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Now, we have a personal connection,
Yes.
don't we?
Yes.
We'll come to that.
Okay.
You directed a film called The Waiting Place,
Yes.
which I acted in,
Yes.
which I love. We'll come to that later. I read somewhere this quote, and I'd like to know what you think of it.
Oh dear.
All right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, because we're both, well, you're more creative than me, you direct, you're an entrepreneur, you have to, for your mother's brand, etc. And I'm also a creative person in my own ways. So I came across this quote: when another blames you, or hates you, or people voice similar criticism, go to their soul, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are. You will realize that there is no need to be racked with anxiety, that they should hold a particular opinion of you. Now, as a creative person, keeping that quote in mind, with responsibility to attain a certain objective in your work, your family life, today, as we're speaking, are you racked with anxiety? Are you better prepared today to handle criticisms of others?
Firstly, I love that quote.
Yeah.
And it makes me,
Marcus Aurelius.
there you go.
Meditations.
And it makes a lot of sense in that I think that when you try to dig in a little bit deeper and try to look for not just the humanity of a person, but just, I think when you dig a little bit deeper into a person, you always realize that the hate is coming from a place of fear or insecurity or anxiety that they have. And it probably has very little to do with you. Generally, I think it's fear. And I think if you do decide to make that effort and dig a little deeper, you'll see that that person comes from a place that isn't actually quite scary. And it doesn't, the anxiety that you're feeling is not actually yours, it's theirs. That being said, of course, there's still a lot of anxiety in my life and there's still a lot of fear. I think that becoming a mother changed that a lot in many ways, which is that the whole world is screaming at you, right? There's opinions being thrown at you. Most of what you're doing is wrong. And if that fear and that anxiety goes away, then you're not, at least for me, I feel like I've stopped growing. I need to consistently and constantly be petrified of something in order to feel like I need to jump into
petrified of something?
I think so. Like writing, for example, is very difficult for me. I find it to be, I feel like I find every excuse to dodge the act of actually writing.
Oh, sitting down.
Sitting down and actually, yes.
Okay.
And physically writing. And so I'll figure out many different ways to not write. Even though, the end goal is to write.
Yeah.
But I find the act to be quite daunting.
Yes.
And I think only because it is so daunting and because I question it and because I'm so unsure of it that I have to leap into it. And once you leap into it, you realize that you don't actually know anything that you're doing. And at least the way I write, I'm kind of collecting bits and pieces of information and memories and kind of stringing them together.
Process.
How do I start the writing process?
Then you said it was daunting. How do you overcome that?
You don't.
You don't.
At least I don't ever. It's really a matter of having a voice available to you saying that you're not completely stupid. Like it's okay. And because there's another voice that's very strong that wakes up with you and says, oh, you're wasting your time, you don't know what you're doing, and what are you doing, and this person did so much better, and it's already been done before. Yeah. And then there's that one little voice that says, no, you got this. And so you got to know when that voice is awake and when this voice can go to sleep. I think for me, like early in the morning is a good time. Like these voices haven't quite woken up yet. If I have a morning of conversation with other people or another thing to do, then all these voices wake up, and then it's not as fearless.
Yeah, or organic.
Yeah.
Okay, Karishma, where were you born?
I was born in Delhi.
In Delhi.
Yes. I went to school in Delhi.
Yes.
I
Your parents?
My parents were born in Delhi.
In Delhi as well. Both.
Yeah.
And you grew up in Delhi. You went to school.
I went first to modern school,
Right.
Motherhood. Then I went to the British school,
Right.
and I graduated from there. And I went to college in the U.S.
In the US. Yes. We'll come to siblings.
One. I have an older brother.
And he is what?
He now lives in Delhi. He was in Mexico till a few months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And how were you as a child, for example? I mean, were you like me? Were you shy? Were you never wanting to go out? Or
I was a quiet child. My brother is a very big person, big personality.
Right.
My mom's a big person, as you know, and a big personality. And I think their personalities always filled up the room. And so I became a little bit more pensive and a little quieter and very observant. And I think that really helped me along the way, is to just kind of notice people.
Time is a manifestation of Krishna. Okay, fine. The Bhagavad Gita, right? In so many ways, that image of Krishna is used, for example, to ground the readers of the Bhagavad Gita, its followers, its disciples, in an interpretation of what's solid, the truth, for example. Now, the Gita, more philosophically, as you know, spiritualizes a notion of time management. The time is not ours. Now, what I wanted to ask you is that today, have you been able to manage your time?
I think that the one thing that I actually learned after becoming a mother, or the one thing that struck me, was that I have a lot more time.
Yes.
And the only reason that happened was because I understood the value of time a little bit more. I think in my 20s and even early 30s, time was quite frivolous.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, right.
And there wasn't really any. Actually, when I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And at the time, I realized that I had this film in my head. Now we're jumping right to it.
No.
No, we are, because I'm
not saying no.
Yeah, you're like, no, stop.
Jump.
Yeah.
Jump.
No, I had a film in my head, and I got pregnant, and I thought, if I don't make this film right now, I don't know if I'm ever going to make it. And that turned out to be The Waiting Place. And I had to write it immediately, and I had to produce it, and I had to finance it, and I had to direct it and edit it, and go to Bombay and do the sound and the color and all that, and finish it off before I had a baby, because suddenly time became extremely valuable. And I was so unsure of who and what I would become post motherhood that was something that I needed to do for myself. And I think after becoming a mother, you are always called upon, and you're always sort of available, at least for the first year. And then that teaches you've got to start eking out moments that are yours.
Yeah, so okay, fine. As being a mother, did you change after becoming a mother? And in relationship, in relation to time, for example?
Like I said, your time is not your own anymore.
Yeah.
And when you lose a sense of your time, that's when you realize its value. And so, every morning has to be early mornings, and every night has to be not as late as it used to be. And
Adjustment.
Wow. Yeah, but also it's really fun. I don't know. I feel like it's really like I don't know. I feel like I said, the 20s was they were great,
mm-hmm.
right? But then after that, I stopped reading as much, or I stopped thinking as much. I started partaking in other people's thoughts a lot more than my own. And
okay.
Now it's a little bit quieter, and it's a little bit slower. And the slowness allows you the management of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that earlier I interviewed your mother.
Yes.
And I interviewed someone else who holds a particularly important place in your life,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes. Deepa Mehta.
Deepa Mehta.
Yes.
Fire, right?
Yes.
You played young Shabana.
Yes.
Your character was called
Radha.
Radha. Now, in my opinion, that film really tore the Indian social system to shreds. A social system where women, as depicted in film, enjoyed little or no sort of rights. A very patriarchal sort of control of a woman's sexuality. You know? And I do believe that these themes, regardless of how old they were when Deepa, wanted to speak about them in her film, they're still relevant today. So, has the situation today, in urban India, in your opinion, Delhi, for example, changed?
Yes.
Yes?
There've been huge changes. Obviously, we still are quite a patriarchal society. Obviously, the men still kind of stand forward and the women follow in many ways. But if we're speaking only of urban India, I think that women dress in a way that they couldn't 15, 20, 30 years ago, even when the movie was made. I think that they have a sense of self and courage because we come in groups and women support other women. Women were so afraid of supporting other women. Even when I was growing up as a child, you always had to be like a boy. It was much cooler to be a tomboy than to be like a girl.
Right.
And that's changed now completely. You don't need to fit into the mold of a boy to be a cool girl. And I think that the way when Fire came out, I wasn't even allowed to watch it.
You were 9.
I was 9.
Yeah.
Or 11 when it came out. Yeah. It was, very young, not allowed to watch women loving other women on screen.
Yeah. Did it form an idea that you could become a filmmaker? Or did it sow a seed of a certain sort of curiosity, maybe, at that age or no?
She had this crane. Okay, we were in like these big mustard fields.
Where?
Somewhere outside of Delhi. It was like an opening shot somewhere outside of Delhi. I had to get there at 5, 6 in the morning. And she had this massive crane that kind of like swept through, almost like gladiator style, through the mustard fields and then reached where I was sitting with my mother and father in the film on this charpai. And when I saw the camera doing it, I was like, what is going on?
Curiosity, piqued your curiosity.
I had no idea what it was. Yeah. But then when I understood that a camera was a sort of device that could move through time and space in a way and reach you and then portray you in a way that has nothing to do with who you are. I was in costume, I was saying lines and I didn't really know what they meant. I'd never been in drama before, so I had no idea. But just seeing how this camera moved and captured a moment.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating.
Time.
And she did it, she did 2 shots, 3 shots. I think we must have done like 4 or 5 takes. And every single time she asked me to do something a little bit different.
For example?
So in one shot, first shot I remember very clearly, I just said my line, whatever it was. Right. Then she came up to me and she whispered it in my ear, like what my dad was going to say to me. So she whispered in my ear and it made me giggle. And she's like, and she left it at that.
She knew how to handle
a 9-year-old, a first-time actor.
Because, you probably would have been slightly like... others' sort of gaze on you.
Yes.
So she understood, that's fantastic.
And then in the next shot, she got Deepak, who is actually her brother who plays my father in the film, to whisper a line into my ear, and I had the same reaction. So she was like, okay, good. And then, we kind of did a line by line like that. And that's how she broke it down for me. There was no rehearsals. There was no there was no actor, director time.
So as a filmmaker, do you feel the same responsibility that you can share on a set that maybe in your family life, time management, private and in public?
I really dislike time management on a set. I dislike it so much, and I'll tell you why. It's because I was an AD, I was an assistant director on a few Bollywood films, and all I did was manage time, right? Because you have to just make sure that everybody's on set on time and the shot is moving on time. You have a director yelling at you, being like, "Shut the fuck up! I don't want to listen to you tell me it's the last shot," you know. And so I came to loathe the idea of time management on a set. And on my own set, I try not to be the one to manage time. I try to be the one to manage the film. I manage the emotions, I manage the expectations, I manage the crew. That's what I like to do. But if I'm also managing time, then I'm basically fighting myself.
You're fighting yourself.
And I hate that.
Yeah.
So I give that to somebody else.
Okay.
I give
Fair
that
enough.
job to
Fair
somebody
enough.
else. Yeah.
You mentioned the waiting list.
Yes.
How did that happen? Did you want to talk about a certain theme? Because Deepa Mehta, 9 years old, 5, she also started in documentaries and short films, didn't she? In Delhi. I mean, that is a way to go on about things, to understand the short film and documentary format. But The Waiting Place was a very personal story to you, wasn't it?
The Waiting Place, as you know, it's a story about two children who are growing up in a world where there exists no sound, no music, no laughter, no color. And it's about their journey, how they get from that place to a space where they do discover these things and friendship. So the film was basically about kind of living in purgatory, right? Which is in some way what we all do. We're all waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they're waiting for this big bus stop to be built so they can go to the place where they can start living their lives.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think that that's actually very similar to a lot of us. We kind of are stuck in like this stagnant place where we're just waiting for good things to happen to us. And I think that what I was trying to do with that film, myself, you know, pregnant and all that, is be like, I have been waiting in this place and now I need to leap off and go to find a place. I need to find my own color. I need to find my own music. And so I told the story in a dusty old desert, like a village, of how these kids escape that because they choose to escape it. And escaping it can feel very daunting, and escaping it can feel very difficult. Or it cannot. And so one of the kids is petrified.
Yeah.
They're like, we can't get out of here. It's going to be too scary. And the other one's like, nothing is going to happen. Let's just go try it out. And then they do. And so that was... So my leaping into making this film was basically what the film was in some ways about.
So one child was scared of change.
Yes.
And the other was slightly more brave about facing the unknown.
The other didn't even think about his unknown.
He didn't.
It is unknown. The other one, she was like, she's like, I come to this other place all the time.
It's a girl?
It's a girl.
It's a girl.
It's a little girl. Leila.
Yeah.
And she didn't even know that this place could not exist. She knew that it exists. She knew that you could escape this dreary little town and go to a place where magic happens if you want to. And that's what she did.
Through?
Her imagination.
Her imagination.
Yeah.
So for aspiring sort of filmmakers how were you able to raise funds for it?
I have very generous friends and family.
Okay.
Actually, not even family. I took them, but it was really friends. And I reached out to 200 people.
You did reach out?
Oh yeah, I sent them a little pitch.
Okay.
And I said, I want to make this movie, and this is my budget. And some people gave $10.
That's exactly what you should do.
And other people gave, a little bit more. And so I just kind of collected from a few different people. I did try to put it on Kickstarter, but given that I was pregnant, I literally had a month and a half to raise the funds for the film, and that wasn't enough. And I produced it myself. So when you're writer, director, producer, it's just a lot to...
Casting director.
Yeah. Casting,
Editor?
everything. Editor, casting director, everything. It takes.
And you went on to great success with that. You won many awards in different...
We got into many festivals. We were very lucky to get into many festivals. Won a few awards. And then I think there was like in Sao Paulo, it was like...
Sao Paulo?
There was like a best women in film section for which...
You went there?
I didn't go because I was pregnant.
Okay.
Or actually I had the baby by then.
Okay.
But I couldn't go. I think it was like 2 months after having John.
If a mother could ask a fairy godmother to endow it with the most useful gift, that gift would be of curiosity.
If you choose to dial into their very fast-moving brains, it's fascinating to see how the connections that we take for absolute granted, they find this marvel in. Thunder for the first time, when Jahan heard it. It was the most marvelous. He told me, and he said, and I was like, he's like, what is that sound? I was like, oh, it's called thunder. He's like, the clouds are clapping.
Clouds are clapping? That's great.
Right?
Sorry, but that's great.
And it's just, you're like, whoa. And so
Wow.
those moments, you know.
How old is it?
Jahan is going to be 6.
For like aspiring sort of students?
Yeah.
Wanting to
20 years ago.
Yeah. Could you? Or
Yeah.
the process?
Yeah.
Being on a campus university, correct?
Mm-hmm.
New attitudes, a new idea of fashion, new outlook, new music.
Yeah.
Was it a cultural shock or not? You were exposed
No,
to
not
it
at
from
all.
before.
It wasn't. I was very lucky. It wasn't a cultural shock. It was. I did have jaundice right before I went to college, so I couldn't drink alcohol, which was a real downer. Because when you go to college in America, the first year, the freshman year, is like everybody's drinking.
Tell me more. Freshman year. First year of college. Okay.
Freshman year, first year is basically when you put on what they call freshman 15,
Okay.
which is 15 pounds of alcohol weight.
15 pounds.
Is what they.
7 kilos of alcohol weight.
Yes.
Okay.
Of weight you put on
Nice.
just because of excessive alcohol drinking, but I put none of that on because I had jaundice.
Yes. Jaundice.
But people started smoking a lot of weed, and that became a thing. And that was sort of freshman year.
Artist.
But anyway, it was very old school and very lovely. I mean, compared to now, at least old school.
So there was no sort of brainwashing. This film is great. No. You were able to navigate.
Yeah, you watch everything, you figure out what you like, and then, as I did, which I don't know if a lot of people do, but then I imitated a lot of the people that I loved.
Okay.
And I imitated the films that they made and tried to make my own, and they were terrible.
Imitations or the films?
My imitations.
Okay, imitations.
Their films were wonderful. But I think that was very helpful because, you eventually realize that you have to have a voice. And you keep that other little voice in your head tells you that your voice is wrong and that it's trite and that it's no good. But the more of these trite films you make and you allow yourself to push through that, eventually you'll see what you create.
And yes, so many other students were doing similar things. So you were able to judge your work in comparison to others.
Yeah, and their films are much better than mine.
No, but
and that's what I think.
Yeah.
That's just what I think. Yeah.
Well, but there was this kind of very creative sort of environment.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
very.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lots of writing, I did a lot of writing classes and screenwriting courses, and you learn a lot through them. And then I think that when I became an AD and started working in the industry, it kind of shatters everything that you know, because then they make fun of you for having studied at film school. And
They do?
they did when I was there, yeah. And I worked in LA for a bit. I wasn't working on film. I was working as an assistant. And if you've seen Entourage, then I was basically Lloyd.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were?
Yeah. For a year and a half. I had someone
Lloyd is Ari's assistant?
Yes. I was an assistant. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Had a very big agency at the time called ICM.
I see.
And then I moved back here, and then I started working in Bombay.
A film that you would like to have directed?
Oh! Recent film?
No 3-1.
Okay, recent film, the first one that comes to mind would be Lady Bird. Because I love Greta Gerwig, and not Barbie, Lady Bird. Lady Bird, Aviator.
Last question. Future. What are you planning?
I'm planning my movie, and it's a comedy drama set in Delhi. And that's all I'm doing.
All right.
Yeah. And I finished writing it, and now I'm beginning to start pitching it. I'll see what happens.
Karishma, thank you.
Yeah, this is really lovely. Thank you. Thanks.